All right, this is Brother Q. Welcome to the show. And this episode is entitled Polygamy, Part 1. Or some people like to say, polygyny. I've invited a special guest, my friend Garrett Big Williams from the Get Established show, along with some other friends of mine. And we're going to go in on the subject matter. And I think you'd be quite surprised as to how real brothers go in on a serious subject that may be facing us in these changing times. Okay, let's jump right in the already in progress conversation, starting off with my friend Garrett Big Williams, along with my other friends BJ, Kevin, and myself.
I think stuff got very real for some women when COVID hit and the lockdowns happened. Because the modern woman today, we're in this society where I got it, I don't need no man, all of that. But when COVID hit, they had to go out there in the store and fight. I mean, literally, in some situations, had to fight to get supplies and stuff. And that is where men thrive. Men don't mind, doing that stuff. This is what we built for. We built for those type of situations. Right. But you've got a woman now that's like, okay, everybody's home. Am I safe? Because you should feel safe in your home, but now everybody's home. So in the way that society was, and I think that, and this is not me just poking the bear at the women, but this is a real conversation that we have.
Right.
Men are stronger, and without the rule of law, men would just, not the decent men, but if men want to take something, they would just take it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the type of situation that I think that they aren't thinking about. They're thinking about the world that's been built. Well, if you think about it, the world that's been built has been built by men. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we, as men, don't get enough appreciation, value, consideration for all that has been put in place. Because even when some of our brothers and sisters were in slavery, the men were still doing the real back-breaking work. Not that the women weren't working hard, but those railroad tracks was getting laid by the brothers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The real heavy lifting. And you talk about doing that without pay or very little pay. And it's disheartening when I hear women and I see women in the media and the things that they show on TV these days, where women feel like if a guy making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, he's not worthy of being her mate because she may be in a better financial situation or, something of that nature. So we have to think about the power of community. We have been tricked into so many things as a Black society. We have been tricked into thinking that we don't need one another. We can do it independently. Well, what you do is you divide. It's the divide and conquer tactic that's been used all along, all through society. It's just that the biggest brunt of it has been hit by the Black community.
Right. All right, BJ.
That's the warm up.
Right, no doubt. BJ, come on, chime in. What's your thoughts, bro?
Honestly, I'm kind of on both sides, only because it's a topic that I didn't grow up hearing anything about. I mean, I'm 34 years old, and the topic of polygamy is something that I only saw like when watching, TV with those Mormons or whatever. So it automatically gave like a oh, that's that for white people type thing growing up. But I totally agree with what Big said, how it was the men. Like my grandfather, he was one of those men working on the railroad. Like hard work was what did it. My other grandfather on my mom's side, he was a farmer. And yeah, he had 13 kids, but my grandmother didn't work. And she took care of the house and he worked hard. So I totally feel how what Big was saying, what this pandemic brought on the Black woman, especially those saying that they didn't need a man. It was an eye-opening experience to where you may not need them, but you could get a lot more done if you had one who was willing to work, because two partners is a lot better and easier than one. So when you start discussing polygamy as far as multiple women to help a family or pass on generational wealth, that's different. I really, like I said, never heard much about it. I've researched it a little bit, especially since you sent me the information on what the panel would be about. So I researched it a little bit, and it kind of does make sense. And if it works for you, it works. I would love to see how, someone who's been practicing that has how their experience has been, at least for like 3 to 5 years, especially during this pandemic.
Okay.
I'm curious to see how that would be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, for me, there is a Hebrew Israelite community, and there's a brother on YouTube. He has his name is Pastor Dowell, that I follow. They have a Straightway Truth Ministries, and they have been doing it for over 20 years. Community, polygamy. Now, the the issue at hand. Being at YouTube. Before I go into that, you guys gave me your perspective. Let me give you mine, just for the record. I am an advocate of polygamy from the perspective that in order for there to be transgenerational wealth, that we as a melanated people, we need to move out of the cities. I've been saying that. I say that every show, every video that I do. We have been domesticated and become urbanites. And if I don't care if I gave you $1 million today, now you may know how to flip it, right? But if I hand you $1 million and I tell you, no matter what you do, you cannot move from this spot. You can send it to the left, right, up, down, whatever you do, but you cannot move from this spot. If you stay in the same spot long enough, that municipality is designed to extract every penny of that revenue from you. And that is our issue as a people. We don't have transgenerational wealth because we think that the municipalities are designed for us to prosper, and that is 180 degrees wrong. If you don't understand my perspective, please go back to the YouTube channel and check out my Buzzard Goat series, part 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a better perspective. Okay, but now my issue is the reason for polygamy, from my personal perspective, would be, let's say I have, 10, 20, 30 acres. Let's be conservative and say 20 acres. Okay? When I reach a certain age, I will not be able to manage that land. I need to be able to entrust that land to somebody. Somebody needs to work it. Okay? If I have multiple wives, I have a dowry to give to the wives. I have each of my wives get an acre of land. Each child gets an acre of land that they own free and clear from day one. Okay? When finances come within the family structure, what happens is that, well, first of all, since I'm the head, now, mind you, I'm coming from the biblical perspective And at the same time, I'm also coming from our ancient society's perspective. And then I'm adding just a little bit of the Walking Dead in there. Because now you have no municipality to depend on. Okay? But I have acres of land. Okay? I need children, young families, even if they're not all mine. You need community to make what you build sustainable. Okay? You get into your 40s and 50s. How many years you have that? Have to run that? 10, 20, right? And then what? If you don't pay the taxes, the government's going to come and take it, divvy it up, and we lose anyway. This is what has been happening over the years. Things like eminent domain come in. But when you have such things as a family trust, and you put your land in a family trust, two things happen. Even your family members, they can't sell it. Okay? It's always within the family. Even if they don't use it, to sit there. Okay, the taxes get delinquent, still can't sell it. They can't come in eminent domain. None of that stuff. When you're ready to use it, somebody in your family comes along, pay the taxes, you're right back where you left off. Okay? Now, for that purpose, you need children. In that perspective, if I have 3, 4 wives, and each of those wives give me 3 children, that means I got to have 4 acres per covenant, if you will. One for the mother, one for each child. So that means a bare minimum of 20 acres. If I want to take on more wives, I have to have more things. Now, let me say this. Just from the perspective of passing it on to the next generation, that's what we're talking about. Most people, men including women, they see the sexual relationship. First of all, what are the criteria for you to become a wife in the first place? What are you bringing to the table? Okay? What can you do? Okay? I don't need a vagina. That's not it. You have to be a midwife, you have to be a nurse, horticulture, medicine, you name it. That
Cook.
is, yeah, that's the first thing. We're building community. We're building something sustainable. You have to have a skill not only that you can use now, but you can pass on to 5 or 6 other people. Now you have a generation of midwives or cooks or seamstress. Just like the men, if you know how to build a house, you're supposed to train 4 or 5 other people. Everybody in the community is supposed to know how to build and nail and do those things. But now let's flip it 180 degrees now. Remember, we are urbanites. What about having a polygamous situation and being an urbanite, living in the city? I don't agree with that. Why? What is it that you have to give to the female? Money? I know the world's oldest profession where you do that. You don't have to be a wife. Okay? What is there to pass down to the children that are products of those covenants? What do they get out of the deal? So as far as I can see, when it comes to us being urbanites in an urban situation, the polygamous situation from an urban perspective is just like pimping, if you will, for lack of a better term, because what's in it for them? When you talk to the female, you get the female perspective. The first thing they talk about is sex. Oh, I'm not sharing my man with anybody. Who told you you were mine? Now watch this. How many of us have been in polygamous relationships, dating, and we didn't even know it? How many brothers do we know that are in polygamous relationships with other women? They don't have a written or agreed to covenant. It just got one over here, one over there, one over there, right? Almost the same, right?
Yeah.
Only thing, they don't know about each other. So there's no real benefit. And in that perspective, from that perspective, I don't agree with polygamy at all. In other words, if it is not to uplift the woman, if it's not to uplift the children, if it's not to uplift the community, it is a waste of time and it is detrimental. That is my perspective. Kev, your turn. What's going on, Doc?
Just get just getting in from work.
All right.
Emergency call. So I'm catching up with you guys.
Okay, basically, we get the subject matter, as you know, is polygamy. And I just Big gave background of his perspective. BJ gave his perspective. And what I'm trying to do is get both sides of the coin, whether you be for polygamy or against polygamy, or even if you have perspectives on both sides. And what would be the benefits as opposed to anything that would be detrimental from that situation for us in the perspective of a melanated household?
Well, I'm looking at it in today's perspective as far as the mindset of women today and what society has engraved in the brains of so-called black men and so-called black women is when you get these women who are in a position where they feel like they have a job, they're making so-called decent money, they feel that they don't need to participate in anything like that. It's the ones who, you'll probably find in the hood, maybe someone who's desperate, or you might run into someone who's actually conscious and will agree in those terms. As far as having multiple women in the household where you're actually building a community, building economic wealth, and handing down land and your estate and leaving it to your children or leaving it to someone within the community. So as far as what I see, I mean, it can happen, but it's very difficult. You have to have the right mindset, on both ends. Otherwise, it's going to fail.
Yeah, I agree.
I had one friend of mine. He told me that his ex-girlfriend wants him to move to North Carolina. She said, "Listen, I'll pay for your insurance. You can even have another woman on the side as long as you're part of my household." And I told him, I said, "That's a trap." I said, look at it like this. I said, if she's serious about what she said, put it in writing and both of y'all sign it. That's one of my old millionaire friends told me a while ago. He says, you'll know when a person's serious when they are bound to a contract. Mm-hmm. When they sign something, they agree to it. Not just verbally, because verbally it was like, I didn't say that. But if you have it in writing with both your signatures, it's a wrap.
If it's not in writing, it never happened.
That's right.
Exactly. So it's like that, like a security agreement.
Right.
It's like I did a security agreement for a husband and wife, and they both read it, and they was like, wait a minute, should we sign this? This is more detailed than our vows.
Very much.
I'm like, yeah. Yeah, but that's what it is. You putting whatever you say on paper, period, and signing it, agreeing to it. So that's my thought.
Okay. Well, let me chime in. I said, okay.
There's no way to confuse that once it's written down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, nowadays with the legal profession, they can confuse, black and white, but but it would be more difficult than just a generalization. But going in on something that Big said, The relationship, now, guys, I want you to chime in on this one, okay? Whether it be personal or whether it be from a perspective point. The relationship between the melanated man and the melanated woman is askewed 180 degrees out of phase. We have not been the head of the melanated woman or the protector of the melanated woman for almost 400 years. And so now to come up and say, not only am I going to be the head of one, I'm going to be the head of two or three or four or whatever I choose. Okay? Now, let's talk about the men or the male perspective from a polygynist standpoint. Let's say, okay, society as we know it has ended because of COVID or whatever. The police have been defunded. We're under martial law. Movement is restricted. If you haven't had certain inoculations, your travel ability is limited. And so, therefore, there are certain individuals who used to flaunt whatever it is they've been blessed with, and now they can't do that anymore. The club is closed, Instagram is shut down, OnlyFans is not working anymore, you don't have any crypto, okay? I'm just being funny. But now we are forced to stare each other in the face and deal with each other. Melanated man, melanated woman. We don't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
How do we fix that? Big, you go first.
We got to start talking, and
Okay.
we got to listen. You know, the old saying is that you got two ears and one mouth, so listen twice as much as you talk. We got to come to the table and, you know, end the gender war, because we got wrapped up in somebody else's stuff. Really had nothing to do with us, because without us, we don't have a level of power in the equation in the country for us to even be a part of the war. We're what we call casualties
Right.
of war.
Right. We are the
And
descendants.
we have to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that's why it's important tonight that you're having this conversation, because hopefully this will bring about a new thought in some of our brothers and some of our sisters, where we can have some intelligent conversation and start alleviating what the obstacles are that are separating us. Because, you know, it's like Malcolm X said, we've been bamboozled, run amok, led astray. We have to be the ones to come together so that we can move forward. And if some of these situations have to happen where we have to couple up with multiple women for the community, and women have to realize they outnumber us 2, and in some cases 3-1. If you're in Atlanta, it's ridiculous, you know, in that area.
Agreed.
But you have to, at this point, we have to look realistically and stop feeling so emotionally about things. Is what I'm doing benefiting my family in the long run? And if that you can't answer that with what you're doing, then you need a new plan. And the thing about it is, that's not a question that we ask ourselves every day. We have to put that at the forefront, because otherwise we're being left behind. There's so much that's going on in the world today, so much going on in all these markets around the world, and we're still out here shooting and killing each other. We, you know, the cops are killing less than what we're doing by our younger men. We're to the point that if this doesn't stop, we're not going to have enough men left to lead. They are eliminating themselves as minors or less than, 18-year-olds.
Right.
We'll
Adolescents.
go with that, because we know
Right.
what that language is.
Right.
So we have to sit down. We have to come together. Mothers, all of these single things, we got to start bringing things together. We need family. That's one of the things we talk about over on my show, at the Get Established show, is trying to bring the Black community together because we're stronger
Exactly.
together. And if we can't get there, we're weakened to the point right now that we don't even need anyone to attack us.
Mm.
That's how diluted we are right now, because it's all self-inflicted. And that's what's going to happen. We have to understand, is what I'm doing. This is for the men. This is for the women. This is for the conversation for the kids. Is what I'm doing today going to help my family down the road? That's the
Right.
question.
Right.
And if it's
Okay.
not, we need to do something different.
Okay. So, in from that perspective, I just want to chime in on that before I go to the next person. We need to talk more. Right now, someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Big, I want to join. I've been watching you. Been watching how you move. Okay, I want to join your family." What would be your response?
Why? That's question number one.
Well, I just told you I like the way you move. I see you getting stuff done.
Oh, you see what I'm doing? Okay, so I mean, that's what started a conversation. We have
Mm-hmm,
to sit down and find out. Okay, this is what we have here.
mm-hmm.
What can you add to that?
Exactly.
You know, and
Exactly.
that's the reality of the situation. What can you add? The wheels are spinning. What can you add? How can you fit? How can you make it better? How can we strengthen one another? Because like you said, man, it just ain't about. I mean, it's not about the sexual thing.
Of course not.
If you down that road is a dangerous path. If that's what's leading you, there's no progress in just driving yourself for sex.
Exactly.
It has to be a real functional purpose where everybody involved understands that we're going down this path and we're going to do it together. And this is how we're going to do it together. But within that, and this is the real problem, within that, people have to defer. You have to, understand that just like in a company, there's one CEO for a reason. There's one CEO. There's a board.
Mm-hmm.
There's vice presidents and there's other chief executives, but there's one CEO.
Right.
And you have to be able to live in an environment where you can defer to that. And what I find in today's world, so many women are so successful in their profession that they don't want to come home and defer to who is rightly the head when they could be so supportive and so strong. One of the things I believe in wholeheartedly, you'll hear me say this over and over again, in a family, dad, the father, is the bones. The mother is the blood. That's what flows. Dad is the strength. Mom keeps everything flowing. And the children that you produce are the skin that protects the blood and the bones. That's how we can move forward together, because it's going to get to a point where those bones get weak and that blood gets slow. But that skin, if it's intact, it'll carry on.
Good point. All right, BJ, your thoughts. Okay.
Okay.
Somebody wants to join your situation. Okay. And they come to you, BJ. Listen, I've been watching you, how you handle your wife, your household. There's nothing popping out here. I want to join your team. How would you respond to that?
Honestly, at this point, I would have to say I couldn't sustain that. And that would only be coming from a place of honesty within myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just building this family. So for someone to say, I've been watching what you're doing and I want to be a part of that family, I honestly couldn't sustain it. And that's coming from me. Now I couldn't speak right. Like I couldn't speak for anyone else. I couldn't sustain it. It wouldn't be responsible for me to do that. But I totally understand someone saying, hey, I could sustain if you can bring certain things to the table. And like you were saying, with if you have 20 acres of land and you could sustain multiple wives and multiple families, I'm actually surprised that a lot more people have not done that in the last 2 decades or so, because it would make sense if you had the wealth and you had the land to just start over and create it yourself. It makes sense if you could sustain it. But if it was me, I would have to say I couldn't sustain that. That wouldn't be responsible as a man, and as a father and a husband wouldn't be responsible.
All right. Good point.
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
jump in on that? So BJ, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I understand where you are. How long have you been married?
Just celebrated 4 years.
Okay, so you're very, very new marriage. But one thing in our community, what we lack is mentorship. And because you're looking at it through your eyes, and this is where a lot of us tend to fail, is that we can only see what we can see. What if there was a mentor that said, BJ, this is the opportunity for you and your family to increase and be better, and I can show you how to do it, and we can align everyone to where it's going to work? Would that be an open opportunity if you had a mentor that would lead you to do that?
Yeah, that would be a different kind of conversation then, because the mentor would be able to open all eyes and be able to openly communicate to where people would feel comfortable in making that kind of move. So I could see a person doing it. Yeah, that would be something different.
So those are the things where we're lacking. Like BJ's 34, I'm 46. Now I'm not in a polygamous relationship. I'm just asking the question because this can apply to anything in our community. This is how we need to be moving.
Right.
I'm 12 years his senior, not a tremendous amount, but enough to have seen more, that something that I have that I looked at totally different when at his 34, I can see it through totally different eyes and can potentially show him. And that's not just in the polygamy situation. This is also things in life. This is another thing that we have to strengthen in. Our mentorship, our guidance has to be stronger in our youth. And the reason I asked you that question, BJ, because you immediately said, yes, I will be open. The issue that we're having across the board, men and women, is that when we're younger, a lot of times we think we know so much that we're not willing to listen to someone that's older. He's willing. We need more people to be willing so that we can thrive and get back to the community that we're trying to get to.
Right.
All right. Kev? Your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm thinking, and one of the biggest things, I think, besides what everyone mentioned, is the individual thought process, as far as knowing themselves, knowing who you are as an individual. Based off of the topic, there's two things that I think that are involved. One is fear, and the second one is ego. The ego is driven, and a lot of times people really don't understand that they're being driven by their own ego. They let their ego get in the way. And especially when someone like Big was talking about, as far as women who have who have, and they're on a job and they're making great money. It's the sense that, well, I don't need you. That a lot of times that's ego talking, because it's just like I had told mine. I said, hey, listen, when you get up in the morning, you never thought about the fact that the sink that you're washing your face in, it was made by a man. The toilet you sit on was made by a man. The bed you lay on is made by a man. The car, the roads, the office chair. As a matter of fact, your boss is a man. This is a man's world. I know it may not be the perfect situation, but this is the way it is. So, what are you going to do to try to connect, to bring some type of balance instead of letting their job interfere with your thought process as far as what you need to be doing? As far as uh, just because someone looks like has the same skin color ain't your kinfolk, you know,
Right.
unless they're thinking on the same plane that you're thinking on. That and like Big said, we have to talk. We have to have those conversations. But we at the same time while we're having the conversations, we can't be emotional about it. We can't let the egos get in the way. It has to be critical thinking because I I mean if we don't make changes like now, like yesterday, we're going to be wiped out.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, the strong so-called black male presence is slowly being eradicated. It's being erased with the transgender, the whole gay movement, the LGBTQ movement, and and when you look at the patterns and the things that they've been doing, these people stay consistent. They never stop. They never get tired. They keep going and going. They push their agenda after generation upon generation upon generation, and their campaign is becoming successful. You can see it. So when we get ready to sit down and have these conversations, we like I said earlier, we can't let the emotions and the ego get in the way. You can't. It's going to be an emotional conversation, but you have to really start thinking. And as men, we know that women are very emotional, and we have to have some understanding. But there are times when you have to put your foot down and say, hey, listen, you need to stop with all the stuff that you've been thinking. Stop thinking about what you were told on social media, what somebody else that have a degree in, or a specialist, or any one of those types of people telling you that this is the way you're supposed to live your life, because we're constantly being told that. Drink milk every day. Eat, you need vitamins and iron. Go ahead, drink a cup of coffee. Travel here, do this, do that. It's just they're always trying to tell us what to do, how to live, where to eat, what to eat, and all of those things. But when we close these Europeans out of our conversation, we can have better dialogue. We got to get rid of them out of our communication. Just like, hey, listen, no pun intended, no hate here. This is for the brothers. This is for the sisters only. We're not dialoguing with y'all. We need to get our own community together. And the strong male presence has always been a threat when it comes to in the society that we live in. They don't want to ever see strong brothers get together. And the only way that's going to happen is the strong sisters start to unite with the strong brothers.
That's right.
And make stuff happen.
That's right.
I agree.
Right.
Okay. Now that
I yield.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, now that we got that out in the open, it's some pretty valid points. Okay, I guess I'll chime in on it a little bit. Okay. I have spoken to many a female, and the recurring thing that I see is that I'm not willing to share my man with anybody. Okay. Now, it was kind of a joke earlier. I said, how many of us or how many people do we know are already in polygamous relationships and all involved just don't know it already? Now, even though it was said in a joking fashion, that speaks to the level of immaturity and lack of commitment in our communities because we all, if we haven't done it, we all know somebody who has, both male and female. And this discussion is about options. How do we fix it? Okay, so here's my next question. You're in a relationship with somebody now, things have changed, and you had to restructure your household. Like I said, maybe travel is restricted, food is restricted, who knows? Like I said, think Walking Dead, okay? End of the world as we know. The person that you are involved with does not want to do it, does not want to be a part of it, does not want you to do it, but this person does not is not willing to separate themselves from you. Well, how do you handle that? Big, you want to go first?
Oh boy.
That's hard.
Man, it's a real situation. That's a real situation. I mean, I think that's gonna woof because you talk about the steps backwards because we're not in a situation we can't just be emotional at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be smart because not only our numbers are small, if
Mm-hmm.
it's just me and that person, then it's just the two of us that can defend, and it's two of us to get food, or really one of us to get food.
Right.
If we can unify, that creates more security. It creates more opportunity. It creates a bigger foundation for us to live on. So I would have to, whew, you know, if they're totally against it, I'm gonna have to
Totally.
turn them around and make them to join the fashion. But if they're totally against it, man, that's just gonna be a terrible situation. We might as well just die right then.
Well, okay. Oh, let me stay with me. Stay with me for a minute.
If we talk
Now,
about, go ahead.
okay, stay with me for a minute, because I feel you, right? I understand. Most of us are in that situation right now. But here's the thing: we think about bringing in another wife. Most of us, when we think about polygamy, we think about the physical relationship, right? Now? Let's switch to community-based multiple wives, meaning wives of different age groups. Biblically, if your brother was married and your brother died, you had to absorb his wife and any children into your family. That's biblical. Okay? So now, what about the mature women in your community with just no man? Okay? And let's just say, for the sake of argument's sake, that when we say taking on wives, let's flip the script for a minute. When you're taking on wives, how about this? Let's put the word wife on the side. You have mature women in your community with experience and sound mind, sound body, that are alone, that you respect, you admire, they have a lot to bring to the table, and this woman is alone. And she would like to enter into your family for the sake of protection, but she's bringing her, let's say she's a midwife or a nurse, a medical professional, a dentist. She's bringing something to the table. Okay? At that point, what do you say to the female in your life? Now you see the need for what skills this individual has. You see the need for that within your household or within your community. How do you sell that? Anybody? Come on, BJ. Come on,
It
man.
sounds like you would have to almost say, would this be older? This would be an older person,
Could
right?
be. It could. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. Like I said, it could, like we just said earlier, it could be a professional woman. She doesn't
Okay.
necessarily have to be old, just a professional.
Well, community-wise, when you spread it like that, I would have to say you almost have to word it as, this is what our community needs in order for it to flourish. This is something that you can't do. You don't have the skills. You don't have the knowledge. I don't have the skills. I don't have the knowledge. This person brings on something that neither one of us have. So in order for the community to thrive, this is necessary. So this is what has to happen.
Okay. Kev?
Well, it goes back to that ego.
Okay. No, but like I said, you have to sell this. Now, okay, now, for right now, we're looking at the tangibles of what is necessity, right? We're not talking about physical relationships. We're putting childbearing on the side because more than likely, this may be a professional person or a person with skills that is beyond their childbearing years, right? So whatever it is that they're bringing to the table, they're bringing to the table to enhance the family and everybody else. How do you sell that to the person that you're with that's just not with
Like I said, it goes back to the ego. It goes back to the emotional part of it, because that's when you, as a man, have to put your foot down to know what's right.
it?
You know, if you're standing on truth, truth is truth.
And
You
that's
know,
what I was trying to get to.
right, if you know within your heart, in your spirit, your soul, that whatever it is that you're doing is right, there's nothing really much more to talk about. It's like, hey, I love you, but you know what? I'm gonna love you from over here.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Can,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
can I chime in on that?
Yeah, sure.
That's when I would obviously pick up the phone and call my mentors, my seniors. I
Right,
dial
exactly.
up Kev, or I dial up Q, and like, hold on, look, I got an issue. How do I handle this?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where
Right.
just like I was able to help BJ in a situation. There's still things that may be above my pay grade as far as my understanding, and that's when I need that mentorship
Right.
to be able to to get that, because exactly what Kev said is exactly right.
Right. You got to put your foot down.
Yeah.
Okay, but now you putting your foot down now. Okay, I'm gonna chime in. You put your foot down now. We have been made as a man from a biblical. Let's try that again. As a man from a biblical or religious perspective, let's say, or historical for that matter, we are the head of our households. Do we all agree?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Agree.
Okay. So now remember that if this is to take place, that you, the person that you partnered with, they were not raised in this. They didn't sign on for it from the very beginning. They were not with it, and they're like, why should I share what I already have? And I'm not trying to listen. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I came into the game for this, and now you're bringing that. Doesn't that seem a little unfair? Now, this is devil's advocate because I agree with Cav, so don't get me wrong, but this is the thing that's going to come up. Remember, as men, we are looking at the polygamous perspective for the good of all. This is not a pimp game. This is not, I got this many chickens in my hen house, or this is my harem. It's not about that. It's about transgenerational wealth, uh, securing the community and making sure that everyone is whole sound. In other words, actually, this is no woman left behind. It's
Mm.
what it is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What about the sisters that have no husbands, that have all that life experience? Like you said, mentorship. What about the woman who understands that this must be done?
Mm.
And now she needs to take the benefit of her experience and mentor the young women.
Let me jump
Yeah,
in.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So this is where the real conversation comes in, and like Kev says, you're gonna have to have a talk with your woman, and she's gonna have to let that ego go, because the real conversation is about where your deficiencies are, dear.
Right.
These are your deficiencies. This is where we're weak. This is why we can't expand. This is why we can't grow. This is what's going to slow us down. And this woman can come in and not only immediately fill that gap, but also teach you and teach the children for the better of the community. So that's the thing. It's like, people, wise people know their strengths and their weaknesses. And the emotional environment of women sometimes won't allow them to hear it that way immediately. It may be a conversation at night and another one that had to happen in the morning where she can say, well, I actually thought about it and that makes sense. Because some of the things you're talking about, I don't even want to do.
Right.
But in the moment, when you hit her with it, she ain't with it because of all these other things that's going through her head. First thing is sex.
Right.
That's the very first thing. You want you want another sexual partner other than me. That's number one. Once she can get past that and start thinking about, well, man, you know what? I really don't want to cook 4 nights a week. I can't sew that good. These other things, these things that whatever the situation is, if this woman that is by herself can come in, because not only can she come and add to the stability of the home, it also helps with the wisdom of the home.
Now, that's another point. Finances. As the head of the household, in a polygamous situation, the finances and all of the gathered resources are laid at the feet of the husband to do with as he wishes, without question. Okay? Now remember, you're dealing with women, they don't know this. Okay? Do you have a way to assure the women that you're already dealing with that you can be trusted? And if not, how can we, it's not so much how can we convince the sisters to do this. Remember, the goal of this conversation is to show that the possibility and the likelihood that we may have to convert to this on a larger, more normal scale. Okay? So to get out of your feelings and show the benefits as opposed to the deficiencies. In other words, I didn't even, I neglected to ask. Just give me a quick response. Regardless of what your situation is now, do you think polygamy is a good thing or a bad thing? Now, no, let me not say it like that. Do you think you could do it? Okay, now, before you answer, let's put aside the fact of whether you want to do it. You see what I'm saying? It's not a question, yeah, I want to have multiple. No, that's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking. Because like you said, like Big said, whenever you say that, the first place that women's mind go to is sex. And that's not what it's about at all. At all. So, just like what BJ said, that's not sustainable to me in the place where I am right now. And I like how Big came back and told him, he said, hey, but with mentorship, I can see that manifesting. So I'm gonna just go around, just give me a quick, pretty much yes or no with a synopsis of do you think that would be an option for you or not, and why or why not? Let's start with BJ.
I would say yes, only with the mentorship.
Okay. Kev, I'm not going to say what I want to say, but you answer that.
Well, I'm already involved in my sheekish duties. So
Okay.
it's possible.
All right. Big.
Yeah, I could do it. I'm a good manager.
Okay. All right. So now let's switch up a little bit. We are here talking about this. Now we're gonna get together and the sisters are gonna have the same conversation. And then we're gonna get together and we're all gonna have this conversation. But I don't want a bunch of emotional, I agree, I disagree. That's not what this is about. It's not about you per se. Well, this is how I feel. I don't think that's no, no, no. That's what you think. That's how you feel. That's not what we're talking about. Is this a viable option in a time of distress for the melanated family? Will this help build community? You see what I'm saying? And could you, even if you didn't sign in for it, even if you don't agree with it, because I told you, in an urban situation, I think it would be a disaster. Okay, that's my opinion. However, I do think that polygyny, personally, I think a lot more of us are going to have to stare that thing in the face. Okay? Now, here's another thing. It's not really up to the female, but like you said, suppose you had an older woman in your community and you decide to take that woman into your family. There's no sex involved. Or well, it's
I say now. She may need her oil change too.
and right. But okay.
I
Okay,
understand
let
what
me
you're
catch my
saying.
breath. Yeah, for this exercise, okay. Oh man. Okay, here we go. Yeah, for this exercise, there may or may not be any physical interaction, but she has just become a part of the family like grandma. Okay?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to leave her. That could be one of your best buddy's moms or something, and something has happened, and now she's by herself.
Well, and this is another thing to think about now,
Yeah.
because when you're bringing on an elder woman
Mm-hmm.
into a family of, you got your wife, the kids, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and because she is elder, then at some point we're all going to have to take care of her
Mm-hmm.
as well. And that's a beautiful thing, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what the power of the community can do.
Right.
But that's another
Right.
conversation
Right.
with your lady that you will have to sell. Not only are you bringing in this woman into your house, now you're going to ask me to take care of her.
Yeah, but at the same time, see, now I got to go back to what Kev said. He said it's about that
It's
ego.
about exactly.
It's about that ego, man.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Now we are all in agreement that the man is the head of the household, are we not?
We are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you put your foot down and you keep it down? Well, we're going to take this one on, and we're going to take that one on, and we're going to take that one on because we need to get this done. Okay? Do you think, as a man, that you have the intestinal fortitude to carry out that course of action? Now, remember, the person that you first got involved with did not sign on for that in the beginning.
But the game changed. We're talking about, like you said, what was the analogy you gave of the movie?
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, right?
Walking Dead,
So,
yeah.
so when we got together, it was what we would consider a normal society.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we have to pivot. We got to make adjustments, and everybody has to make adjustments. And this may not be what you signed up for, but the world is not what it was when you signed up.
There's no
So
code.
now we have to move in another direction. Me being the CEO,
Right.
I'm trying to make sure that we stay afloat and we stay successful. So in order for that to happen, this is what we need you to do. This is what we need to do. And this is what I need you to do. You need to make a decision to be on board.
All right. Anybody else?
No,
I agree.
Kev?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Okay, so now just one more question. We are going to have a panel of females that we're going to talk to about this. Now, we're going to discuss our likes, dislikes, the basic blueprint of restructuring the melanated family. If you could each give me your point of view, like in other words, you're talking to a sister now that doesn't know this, it's not in her heart. I'm not trying to hear that. You know what I'm saying? But she has to make a decision. Either you're going to get this program or you got to take the train. Because this is for the good of all. What would you say to her? Now remember, you're probably with this person already. Okay? And they just are not seeing you. They're just not feeling you. You may or may not want to end it like this, but she decides that she's just not going to see it your way. Now, you have children, you have assets. What is more important to you, and how would you handle it going forward? Go ahead. Anybody?
That if she can't conform to the situation,
Mm-hmm.
then it may be time to give her a package and restructure the team. Because we talking about survival at this point.
Right.
We don't have time for all the emotional stuff and all this. We talking about survival. That's what we are. We're not in where we can turn on TV and watch Seinfeld. We're not in that environment.
Right.
And of course, heart to heart, we don't want our mate to go. We don't want any of that. We don't our kids or anything. And that's why we're coming to you with this, because this is going to help us all. This is how we all move together and be better. But if you're going to turn everything upside down while we're in a tumultuous situation, then maybe it's time for you to get a severance package. And that's real. I'm just being real.
Hey,
because when it come down to brass tacks, we got to defend the fort.
Right.
And if the fort is contentious, we in trouble.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
True.
Okay.
Yeah, when she started talking survival, I mean, yeah.
Well, okay.
That's the only way.
Now, okay. Now watch this. We're hypothetically talking Walking Dead. Okay. So I got two more things I want to say. Watch this. COVID has changed things. They are restricting travel. You may or may not be able to work. Are we not already facing a situation like that? The beginnings of situation like that right now. Do you see it that way or not? Do you see it on the horizon? If you know? Okay, so
Absolutely.
go ahead, Cap.
No, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation with, a few females. Basically, it's like, hey, look, the life that you had in 2019 is over. What you used to do back then, you can't do anymore.
Right.
And the whole agenda was designed and implemented to make social changes within society, and it's working. So it's just when someone says, "Well, we need to get together," the country's becoming divided. I said, when was the country ever together as a
That's
people?
for sure.
Valid.
That's for sure.
Never. We're more divided than ever, and it's causing mass confusion. So when you have a woman who is clinging on like Lot's wife, want to see the last show, the visual effects is like, oh, the city's so beautiful. I don't want to leave.
Lots of
Those are the things you're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
All right.
gonna have to put your foot down and say, hey, later.
All right. Now I'm going to bring up a hard one, gentlemen. Now you just told me, all of y'all said that you believe that the man is the head of the household. Because I'm bringing this up now because I know this is coming up when we bring the females into the situation. What about they said, well, if you can have multiple wives, why can't I have multiple men?
Because this the team you're on, and there's one man leading it.
Right.
Right.
Period. Next question.
You don't even have to ask me. Big summed it up.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, okay. Point
And I'm gonna
taken.
say that was a cute question.
Right. Because it's like, well, why can't I have multiple? Would you be willing? No. Mm-mm. I wouldn't be willing. If you want to be on some other man's team, you go with that team. That's cool. But now your assets and everything that you acquired here,
We'll stay here.
they stay.
We'll stay here.
That's right.
That's right.
They
That's right.
stay in the community, including the children. Okay?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one last point I want to make, and I want to get everybody to chime in on this because the females are going to hear this. Being that we all agree that we are on the precipice of something that may turn into this. If you had a young sister or even a middle-aged sister that was facing this and she just didn't know how to deal with it, what encouraging words would you give her to help her cope with the fact that she may have to join someone else's family and share herself and her abilities and her gifts and talents with another woman and another man in another man's household? What words of encouragement would you give her?
Sink or swim.
No.
Damn.
That would be
Man.
another potential
Dude, them's fighting words.
of adding to your household, though.
Yeah, but them's fighting words.
But see, this goes back to emotions and ego. You're talking about life-changing events. You're talking about critical situations.
Okay.
So it's the building's on fire. Hey, listen, we're on the second floor. We got to jump or we're going to burn. There's no other discussion about it.
Well,
it's like, well, so I know you're feeling, really bad at the moment, and your anxiety and you're worried about your life and everything. Meanwhile, the building's smoking. You're breathing in smoke, and you're passing out. Come on, jump.
Okay. Let's try this one more time. Like I said, we know how we as a people have been westernized. This is now a necessity, and this is someone that you care about because they're getting ready to get left behind. Real talk. They're getting ready to get left behind. And you want to say something to be encouraging to them to get them out of their feelings so that they are not left behind. Okay? because you care about them, not because you're being nasty or any such thing. Okay? But you're trying to persuade them to see the possibilities in this type of arrangement and the advantages to them and all concerned. What would you say to them? Anybody?
I mean, I think Kev said it.
Oh man.
I mean, that could be another situation where your sister comes and joins your family. I mean, it could be another situation. If she got kids or if she doesn't have a man, she could come join your family. You ain't gonna have sex with your sister.
Oh no. That's not.
That might even put your woman at a little more ease, being that her sister-in-law or whatever is here, but it's still some foundational things that could happen. I mean, you wouldn't just go tell her, if she wasn't in a situation like that, depending on where she is, you could tell her, if she's 500, 600 miles away, then it may be a different conversation. Well, look, you may want to start seeing them as somebody you can commune with. Yeah. Because it's going to be safer for you. You're in a weakened situation as a woman with children.
Yeah, that's a good point you just made. Like you said, it might be your sister, might not necessarily be someone that you are going to have a physical relationship, because after all, you may absorb someone into your household and at some point find a suitable mate for that person and give her away the same way you would a daughter.
Right.
That's a very good point. I'm gonna hold on to that because that's a very, very good point. Very good point. BJ, you got to put your foot down, and there's a sister that needs to come into your the confidence of your family, but she is on the fence. What would you say to her?
I have to ask, if you want your whole life's work, all the years of you, working and trying to make a life for your family, do you want it to go down the drain for self, or are you willing to try something different and make it successful so you can pass it down to your kids?
So basically, you said it's the drain or the train.
Yeah.
Wow.
A nicer way of saying what Kev said.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a nicer way.
Okay. Oh my goodness, guys, listen. I really enjoyed kicking it with you on this subject matter. We are going to we are going to revisit this, and I cannot wait to get the panel together with the females. Remember, after all, this is not just for entertainment purposes. This is for critical thinking exercises, and the fact that we may have to think outside the box and create a new paradigm for the coming years. And we need to open up the hearts and the minds of the people that we care about to something that they may not be open to. That's, after all, that's what this exercise is really about. Hey, did you ever think that it would end up like this? Well, no, that's not what I signed up for. But here we are. And now what? The monogamous way is not the way of the melanated man. We were never monogamous. We were never a monogamous society. In a million years, we were never a monogamous society. Okay? But that's not the issue at this point. The issue is that, hey, even though you were not raised on it, there may be a possibility you may have to join with another team a way that you had not expected. And this is us trying to delicately usher you into a new way of thinking, or at the very least, open your mind up to the possibility that there may be something changing for you on the horizon. This individual created a new way of doing things because they just never thought about it.
Right.
They never were presented with those sets of variables. They didn't even know that they would like it because they never thought about it. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is that 100th monkey syndrome. You're not with it, but you can't tell me why. How many times you deal with sisters and they say stuff like that? Well, why? Well, I don't know. I just no. We have to come out of that with caring, and we have to bring our sisters out of that with caring, compassion, understanding, intelligence, and strength. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think we can do that. I don't think that's a problem at all. Because in what we find in today's world, there was a it looks like it may have been a disconnect with the upbringing with fathers and daughters, and that's why sometimes I may get that tone stuff, and I'm sure other guys get it too, because men don't speak like women. We're not going to speak like women. We use few words, and sometimes it just comes just like the way I'm talking right now. They would say, "Oh, your tone is." I ain't got time for that. I don't have time to be thinking about my tone. I want to get the words out, get you the point, and get on to what I'm going on to.
We've got some healing to do as a nation and as a community, and I believe that we can use this forum to start something different. Okay, but now it takes a level of maturity for us as individuals, because some sisters, you may just tap them on the shoulder and make them realize something that they didn't realize, and then there's some sisters that's just not going to hear you, and you know what? You have to learn to just bow your head and keep
let
moving.
them drown.
Yeah, and let them go.
Yep.
And let them go. Can't reach everyone, but it is not for the lack of trying. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to that discourse for it. And remember, we are all healing. This is a hospital, and we're all healing. And I thank you guys so much for your participation tonight. Any last words?
Appreciate
Anybody?
the invite, man.
Oh man, anytime.
Definitely.
This
is
important.
Thank you.
This is an important discussion.
Good forum.
All right. Well, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Q signing out. All right.
All right. Peace.